Have you ever noticed that the minute you open your mouth, someone else tries to open your wallet, manage your calendar, or judge your past? What if I told you that in your 80s, silence isn't just golden, it's your absolute greatest asset? Welcome back. On this channel, we don't just accept getting older, we audit it. We talk about how to live strictly on your own terms in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. Before we go further, I want to connect with you. Tell me in the comments, how old are you today? And where are you watching from? If you're ready to trade loneliness for absolute peace and regret for clear purpose, then hit that subscribe button right now. I'm Lillian Brooks. I'm 84 years old, and for 40 years, I worked as a senior IRS auditor, specializing in forensic accounting. My entire career was spent digging up the secrets people tried to hide in the dark. I've seen how people operate when they think no one's looking. And I've seen how quickly a life can unravel when the wrong information falls into the wrong hands. As we get older, society expects us to become sweet, chatty, and an open book. They want us sitting on porches, handing out hard candies, and telling our life stories to anyone who will listen. But I treat my life exactly how I treated a complex tax return. Everything must balance, and you never, ever hand over your private documents to someone who hasn't earned the right to see them. Information is currency. Every time you share a piece of your private life, you're handing someone a coin. Give away enough coins, and eventually you bankrupt your own independence. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 ledgers you must keep permanently closed. These are the 5 things you must take to your grave to protect your peace, your freedom, and your dignity. Let's start with secret number 1, your physical complaints and everyday pain. I know this sounds harsh, but nobody wants to hear the daily inventory of your aches. When you hit 70 or 80, things hurt. It's a biological fact. The cartilage wears down, the back gets stiff, and getting out of a chair requires a little more momentum than it used to. But broadcasting your pain doesn't build connection. It builds a file on you. I have a friend who spent her entire life as a head nurse. She's incredibly clinical and has zero patience for nonsense. She always tells me that the moment you become a chronic complainer, people stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a patient. We've all met these people. You sit down next to them at a social gathering, ask how they're doing, and suddenly you're trapped in a 45-minute seminar about their knees, their digestion, and their recent physical therapy appointments. They compare their surgeries like it's a competitive sport. And what happens to those people? Slowly but surely, their phone stops ringing. People stop calling them for lunch. They stop inviting them to the theater or out for a simple walk. Why? Because human beings are naturally repelled by chronic negativity. They assume you're too frail, too tired, or just too exhausting to be around. If you have a medical issue, tell your doctor. Tell a hired professional who is paid to manage your symptoms. But don't make your physical decline your entire personality. If you constantly broadcast your weaknesses to your friends and family, they will start treating you like you're made of glass. And the moment they think you're fragile, they stop asking for your opinion and start making decisions for you. Keep your chin up, manage your health privately, and let the world see your enduring strength, not your morning stiffness. That brings us to secret number 2, other people's liabilities. When someone tells you a deep, dark secret, they're handing you unrecorded debt. As a forensic accountant, I can tell you that holding on to someone else's liability is a highly dangerous game. If a friend trusts you with something painful, a mistake they made, a family drama, or a financial ruin, you lock it in the vault and you throw away the key. Take it to the grave. There's a strange phenomenon that happens as people age. Because their own lives have slowed down, They start using other people's drama as a form of entertainment. They love to gossip. They think sharing a juicy secret over a cup of coffee makes them interesting or valuable to a conversation. It's a cheap thrill. But all it really does is prove that your internal security system is completely broken. Think about it logically. If you sit down with me and immediately start spilling a secret that belonged to your neighbor or your sister, I'm not impressed. The only thing I learn in that moment is that I can never, ever trust you with my own information. You're showing me that you're an emotional embezzler. I've seen lifelong friendships, decades of trust completely destroyed because someone had a glass of wine and decided to share a confidence that wasn't theirs to tell. Gossip is a tax on your character, and the penalty is isolation. Be the vault. When people know that their words are absolutely safe with you, you gain an incredible amount of respect. And at our age, respect is worth far more than a fleeting moment of being the center of attention. Now for secret number 3, your future plans and living arrangements. Never announce your next move until the paperwork is already signed and the ink is completely dry. As we age, our adult children tend to undergo a psychological shift. They transition from treating us like parents to treating us like liabilities they need to manage. They mean well, but their anxiety is absolutely exhausting. They believe that our safety is more important than our freedom. I have an adult daughter who is practically a walking panic attack. She loves me, but she views my independence as a threat to her peace of mind. A few years ago, I made a terrible miscalculation. I casually mentioned over Sunday dinner that the house was feeling a bit large, the stairs were getting annoying, and I was loosely thinking about downsizing. It was a colossal mistake. By the next morning, my phone didn't stop ringing. She had printed out brochures for assisted living facilities. She had researched senior communities with emergency pull cords in the bathrooms. She wanted to download tracking apps on my phone so she could monitor my daily steps. She had practically packed my bags and moved me into a 200 square foot room just so she wouldn't have to worry about me tripping over a rug. When you announce your plans before you execute them, you invite everyone else's fears, opinions, and control issues right into your living room. People will always project their own anxiety onto you. They'll try to talk you out of taking that trip to Europe because it's too strenuous. They'll try to talk you out of buying that new car because your reflexes aren't what they used to be. If you want to sell your house, hire a realtor and sell it. If you want to go on a cruise, book the ticket and pack your bags. Work in absolute silence. Tell your family what you did, not what you're going to do. By the time they find out, the ship has literally sailed, and it'll be too late for them to interfere. The element of surprise is the ultimate shield for a senior citizen's independence. Secret number 4, your past marital compromises and your deep regrets. We've all had chapters in our lives that were far less than perfect. If you've lived to be 80, you've survived heartbreak, disappointment, and situations you aren't proud of. I was married to a man who was very authoritative, very loud, and very demanding. Did we have good years? Yes, we did. But I also made compromises in that marriage that I deeply regret today. I shrank myself to make room for his ego, but I will never, ever confess the depth of those compromises to anyone, not to my children, and certainly not to my friends. I have a very sweet, overly romantic friend who reads poetry and still believes in finding a soulmate at 84. If I told her about the times I felt completely invisible in my own home, or the personal dreams I abandoned to support my late husband's career, she wouldn't understand. She would just look at me with pity. Or worse, she'd try to fix my past trauma by setting me up on dates in the present. She'd introduce me to some man with a nice suit and a fake smile who's really just looking for a free nurse with a paid-off house. Your past mistakes and the things you quietly tolerated to survive are your business alone. When you confess your deep regrets to the world, you give people the power to judge a version of you that simply no longer exists. You hand them an old ledger and invite them to audit a closed business. You don't owe anyone a dramatic explanation for how you survived your life. You don't need to be an open book to be authentic. Close that ledger. Forgive yourself in the quiet of your own mind. Lock away the regret, and don't let anyone review your history. And finally, we arrive at secret number 5, the absolute most important one on this list, your true financial net worth. Listen to me very carefully. Money changes everything. The minute people know you have it, you stop being a mother, a grandmother, a friend, or a sweet old neighbor. You undergo a transformation. In their eyes, you become a resource. You become a walking, breathing bank with a pulse. There's a dangerous assumption that because you're old, you don't really need your money anymore. People look at you and think, what's she going to spend it on? Groceries and cable television? She's just sitting on that cash while I'm out here struggling. I have an adult son who views my hard-earned pension as his personal venture capital fund. The minute adult children or extended relatives think you have a comfortable nest egg, their behavior changes. They start visiting a little more often. They start complimenting how young you look. And then, right on cue, comes the pitch. They have a guaranteed business idea that just requires $30,000 to get off the ground. Or they need you to co-sign a loan for a car they can't afford. Or they have an emergency that only your checkbook can solve. When people ask how I'm doing financially, I give them the exact same blank, unreadable answer I gave the IRS when they audited my own returns. I smile politely and say, I'm getting by, keeping the lights on, living on a fixed income. That is the magic phrase. Fixed income. It tells them nothing, but it implies that the vault is closed. If you make the mistake of telling your family that you're comfortable or that your investments did well this year, they will suddenly expect you to pick up the check at every single family dinner. They'll expect larger birthday gifts. And the absolute tragedy of it all is this. Once you let them bleed you dry, once your savings are gone because you wanted to be generous, those same people will not be there to pay for your care when you actually need it. They'll throw their hands up and say they just don't have the resources. Keep your finances entirely, strictly private. Don't leave your bank statements sitting on the kitchen counter. Don't brag about your portfolio. Protect your assets with an iron fist, because those assets are the only thing standing between you and a state-run facility. I've spent 40 years finding what people hide in the dark. I know every trick, every lie, and every manipulation. Now, I'm enjoying the light of my own truth. I don't answer to anyone, I don't explain myself, and I don't fund anyone else's mistakes. They told me I'd be lonely, but they forgot to mention I'd be free. Stay single, stay smart, and stop apologizing for the silence. I'm Lillian Brooks, and I'm not taking applications.